Hello, welcome to 9 Lessons and Carols for Curious People / Socially Distanced People. This is the final chunk of the show. I don't know if you've watched any of the other ones, but this was, all of us had been up. Our producer Trent had been up for a good kind of 30 hours by then, and has had all the people who worked with us, both Melinda and Joe. Steve Pretty was kind of nodding off towards some strange jazz epiphany, and I too we'd both been on stage now for about 25 hours. So this is the final section. Unfortunately, the final section, to keep us going, we had brilliant folk singer and also producer Jim Morey. We had Milton Jones. We had Marcus Brigstocke and Rachel Parris giving us some form of sing-along. And we also had the return of Helen Czerski and a lovely surprise guest. We had Harry Hill doing something utterly intriguing, which I can honestly say that it perhaps is most effective for the truly sleep deprived. So I hope you enjoy this final chunk of our 24/25-hour show.
And we're going over to Ginny in a moment. So now, are you ready? Let's see how far I can get with Bop It. Where's the last one was about 12 or 14. Let's see. Right. Oh. 69! So there we go. Now let's go to Ginny. I know we changed the rules of the game, but I've said, by the way, temperature-wise, I have generally been going back and forth between about 35.8 and 36.5. There's been very little deviation there. The Bop It score, the last time I saw you, I then had a severe decline, and I went down to about 12. And that, as you can see, there was 69, which is the highest score ever on that Bop It, which I believe has actually been played by some Olympic Bop It contestants. So it's one of the major Bop It gadgets, that one.
So I've just been attempting to add that to the graph, but it doesn't seem to want to do it. So we might have to go with the graph before you added that. No. 69 on the Bop It. Let's not be silly about this. If we end on the 12, it's a disgrace. Go on. I'm trying. It doesn't seem to want to pick up that row of the...
It probably, I'll tell you what I would imagine, is it's never had to put down such a high score. It's probably a graph not ready for that kind of agility from an aged man on a three-pronged Bop It.
Yeah, see, I basically don't know how to work the version of Excel that happens in Google Drive, and we've got this as a shared thing. So I've managed to create some kind of graph, but I cannot now change it. Now I have created it.
Okay.
So we can pretend it goes way up again at the end. Everyone can imagine it. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Let's see.
So if I attempt to share my screen, I don't know if this is going to work, but we can work out together. Has that done anything?
It's now merely doubled the foul images. There we are. That's the graph. Now it's back.
Okay,
There we are.
so
Right, so.
what I did was I plotted 2 graphs because, as you can see on this left-hand one, the big difference was when you switched to the easier Bop It. So until about 6 a.m., you were pretty much flatlining-ish around.
I did not master that other Bop It.
Yeah, and then you switched to the easier one and suddenly got a lot better, and then you got a lot worse, and then that last one would have been kind of way up here somewhere. So I think that tells us that you work better when you only have 3 instructions to follow than when you have 5.
Yeah, that is entirely correct. Also, I work better with a working Bop It. Let's never forget the Bop It I was given before did not give verbal instructions. It just made an unpleasant noise.
Oh, I think that might be a different setting.
No, we went through the settings, didn't we, Steve?
We did go through the settings.
It seems that the one you bought on eBay, as if to deliberately demean me, you made sure you bought a faulty one on eBay.
That was Trent. That was not me. Trent bought them.
Oh, that does not surprise me at all. Trent set this whole up thing to destroy me. Well, Trent, it turned out you didn't destroy me at all. I got 69 on the hardest Bop It ever.
So
You have destroyed at least 2 in the process, I think.
If we look at the one before you swapped, I don't really think we can draw much conclusion to that. You got a bit better at the beginning, maybe because you were practicing, and then you got a little bit worse around 2 a.m. And I would have expected 2 to 3 a.m. to be your worst point, potentially. So let me tell you what I was hoping we might see, which we can probably stop sharing my screen now, can't we? Hang on, how do I do that? If I hit that again? Yes, stop sharing. Okay, so what I was hoping we might see is one of 2 different shapes of graph. I thought there was a chance we might see one where you got worse and worse and worse throughout the night. And that would be because you were getting more and more tired. But I actually thought there was a bigger chance that we might see one where you got worse around 3, 4 a.m. and then started getting better again as your body clock sort of went, oh, okay, it's morning. I can start functioning again now. So obviously with switching at about 5 o'clock, it's hard to know whether you would have got better if you'd still been using the old one. Have you felt any more kind of alert coming into the morning than you did in the middle of the night?
No, I felt there was a point, the last time I saw you, at about 8 o'clock, I had to stop doing anything sitting down because I started to fall asleep. Well, not fall asleep, but I could no longer trust my own senses. And with what happened last time that happened in an auditorium, I thought it was best to start standing.
Okay, so maybe we can say that your adenosine system is more important than your body clock system, because it seems like you're getting more and more tired the longer you're awake. How much coffee have you been drinking?
Very little. I've had 3 coffees throughout the whole night. I've just had one now. I've just started on a new coffee, but it's definitely improved now. But there was a point where I really that major slump that you get when you've been up for 24 hours before the Indian summer of being up for 26 hours.
So coffee actually basically tricks your brain into thinking you have less adenosine than you have. It blocks the receptors for adenosine. So that's why it gives you that kind of bit of alertness, because your brain now thinks you have a bit less adenosine than you normally do. So it can give you a kind of temporary boost. Although the more coffee you drink, the more used to having that extra bit of caffeine in the system your brain gets, and then the more adenosine it starts producing. But it can help in the short term, at least.
Oh, thank you very much, Ginny. Thank you very much for setting up that experiment. Thank you for staying with us throughout the entire show. And I hope we work together in the same room soon. Thank you. And Ginny, I should mention, what's your latest book?
My book is out in beginning of April, and it's called Overloaded, and it's all about brain chemistry, and there's a whole chapter on sleep.
Brilliant. So obviously, my graph will be one of the important ones you use in the book. I would imagine you probably have to call the publisher to.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely. That was, brilliant new research. I think I've moved forward our understanding of sleep science no end.
I feel very much like one of those chapters you get in an Oliver Sacks book. Thank you very much. Thank you, Ginny. Brilliant. So we are now. We are going to get now. Steve, when are we going to hear your Christmas #1? By the way,
I think that's coming at 11:30.
11:30. That's brilliant, right? Oh yeah, there we go.
Just finishing mixing it up, uploading it now.
Just pop my earpiece back in. I think I know what we have next. Hopefully. Okay. Then we got a slight change. Sorry, you don't know the slight change. Right? I never got a chance. I brought all these different books to read, and I never got a chance to read from one of my favourites. This is one of the best books I've ever got in a charity shop. It is The Time of the Hawk Lords by Michael Moorcock and Michael Butterworth, a fictional dystopian novel starring Hawkwind. Yeah, it's good. So we're now going to go with someone who I love his jokes. He's done our normal Christmas shows, not that they're ever normal, but at Hammersmith and also at King's Place on quite a few occasions. And what I love about his jokes is the fact that they also, for me, create these full kind of Gary Larson Far Side cartoons. And he's also just a delightful human being. Please welcome to whatever screen you are watching, Milton Jones.
Hello, it's me, Milton Jones. It's great to be back. Oh, yes. As I say, I've spent the whole of lockdown in this cupboard. Well, people often ask me where I get my shirts. Once a year, I travel to the Himalayas. I walk 4 days into the mountains. I climb one particular mountain. There's a cave at the top. There's a hermit who lives in it. And he orders them for me on the internet. Well, this has been my world. But no, actually, this has been my world. Do you remember the old days where you used to be able to travel? I remember once I went to America. For the whole flight, my wife was saying, "Why don't you get an upgrade? Why don't you get an upgrade?" It took a bit of time, but in the end I got a better wife. When I was in America, I really got into the culture. I went into a shop and the guy said, "Have a nice day," and I didn't, so I sued him. When I was in Australia, I learned some Aboriginal words like boo, which means to return. Because when you throw an ordinary meringue, I remember once I saw the Great Wall of China. Oh, well, actually, I closed my eyes. Because recently I'd read a book, 10 Things You Have to See Before You Die, and I'd seen the other 9. I wouldn't mind going out with a Russian woman, because in my experience, inside every Russian woman, there's another Russian woman. I can't even count to 10 in French. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Sorry, I've got a wheat allergy. The other thing I've been doing is putting my family photos in order. Oh, yes. Well, you see, I come from a family of failed magicians. I've got 2 half-sisters. There's my mother. I always remember her feeding us. She'd put a spoon near our mouths and say, "There's a train coming, there's a train coming." And we'd always eat it because we knew that if we didn't, she wouldn't untie us from the railway line. There's my grandfather. He's a bit of a man for the ladies. Doesn't matter how clearly the gents are signposted. There's my other grandfather. He was always going on about how in the war people could leave their back doors open, which is probably why his submarine sank. There's my other grandfather. His last words were, "You selfish boy." Not long after that, I became a fishmonger. There's my other grandfather. He broke his leg by standing on a doormat. I probably should have explained to him the concept of a helter-skelter. And my other grandfather, about a month before he died, my grandmother covered his back with lard. And after that, he went downhill very quickly. My grandmother, she would always give us raisins. Birthdays, Christmas, always raisins. In fact, we used to call her Peshwari Nan. My brother, he's in his final year if he doesn't stop annoying me. My wife, oh yes, I got home from the other day. My wife, she was wearing this slinky number, which only really worked when she went downstairs. Well, I'm very well qualified for all this, you know. Oh, yes. The first job I ever had was washing dishes at an international radar station, but the dishes were a lot bigger than I thought they were going to be. But that was quite a stir-fry we had. I lost my job as a cricket commentator for saying the words, "I don't want to bore you with the details." Don't talk to me about unemployment. I come from a tiny fishing village in Derbyshire. My nephew, when he grows up, he wants to be an accountant. So for his birthday, I bought him a great big bag of receipts. I said, "Listen, don't worry if you don't like them. I've kept all the presents." My dad, he was a dustman. I didn't like him coming to collect us from school, though. Oh, no. Well, it wasn't I was ashamed he was a dustman. It's just you never knew which day he was going to come. The worst thing that happened with him was that one day he said, "I'm just going to pop upstairs." And he went upstairs and he popped. Well, I've been reading a few books as well. This is the autobiography of Francesco Cello, the man who invented sellotape. Can't actually find the beginning on that. There's another one. Oh, yes. Tales of the Unexpected. Once upon a I've always been very bookish. Even at school, they knew I had special powers. What was the phrase? Constant supervision. Oh, yes. When I was 5 years old, my teacher asked me if I wanted to take the school guinea pig home. 7 months later, I arrived in the African Republic of Guinea. Recently, I went back to my old school for the funeral of my old science teacher. They asked me to say a few words, so I did. Method. We put the coffin in the crematorium. Observations. It burned with an orangey bright flame. Conclusion. No more homework. Sometimes people ask me where I get my trousers. Once a year, I travel to South America. I walk 4 days into the jungle. I climb one particular tree. There's a tree house on the top. There's a hermit who lives in it. And he phones the other hermit in the Himalayas, and he orders them on the internet.
Ladies and gentlemen, that was Milton Jones. We're going to be joined very shortly by Marcus Brigstocke and Rachel Parris. I'm going to try and think, because some of the readings that I was going to do now are too bleak for this point of the day. There was a little one that I was going to read from Demon Haunted World. So let me just see what we are. And I should just tell the audience out there, both here and there as well, what we have in the final now. Are we into? Yeah, we're pretty much into the final hour now, Steve. We've done it! We've made it. We're alive. It's happened. So we got. In fact, yeah, we got Chris Lintott. He's been. We've got some news about search for a supernova, which is going to, if the discovery has been made, it's going to help us work out the age of the universe. So that is a fantastic thing. And we're also going to have Steve's song. Steve has been working on a new song. It's going to be a Christmas #1. He's had people send in various noises that they've made, all manner of stuff. Well, have you had a favourite one, Steve, in terms of things that you thought, what am I going to do with this?
There's some really nice ones. So people have been sending stuff in, but I've also been sampling bits of the show. So there's a few bits of the show in there, and there's been some really nice ones. There've been some that have been a bit Scroogey and a little bit Brexity, which isn't really the Christmas spirit I was after. So I've gone for a slightly more jolly message. But
okay.
Yeah, but we've had some really nice piano come in. And some vocals and all sorts of stuff. So everything in the track is made just from the stuff that we've done in the show. So yeah, it's just being mastered right now and about to be uploaded.
How are you feeling in terms of confidence? Is it one of those things where you are worried that when you do wake up tomorrow after actually having slept, you're going to go, "What have I created there?"
Well, yeah, I definitely am. Is they going to live on the internet with my name on it, and I'm going to feel perhaps conflicted about it?
I'm excited. I think this is your true journey to the avant-garde. You've always wanted to journey to the avant-garde.
Well, I mean, I've certainly been there a few times the last 24 hours.
No, so that is great. I will. We are. Let me see the final thing that we're going to have before I. This book is fantastic, by the way. I really recommend this. This is Space, Gravity, and the Flying Saucer from 1952, and it's someone who's worked out exactly how the mechanism of the flying saucers that they've observed works. It's just this really beautiful, very full book in terms of someone saying, "Well, I've worked out extraterrestrial technology, and it's filled with graphs and diagrams about the top dome, why it rotates, light rays from its apertures." That's an absolutely delightful. If you ever get the chance, get Dallas Campbell, who is a great expert on UFOs. That is the book that I owned. He looks at with the most envious eyes. Eric Idle, unfortunately, Eric was going to join us, and then that was kind of one of the things we had the technical hitch, etc. So I could read a little bit. Eric wrote an introduction to the Infinite Monkey Cage book, and it's one of those lovely. We had such a delightful thing where. I don't know how many years, it probably was 9 years ago, where Eric just kind of rang up Brian and went, "I've written a theme tune for you, do you want it?" And it's like, "Yeah, I think we will." So it's always been an absolute treat to have Eric's, that he wrote the theme tune. So this was Eric's, the foreword that he gave to us for the Infinite Monkey Cage book, How to Build a Universe, Part 1. Hello, sorry to come barging into this pseudo-scientific book, but obviously publishers are greedy bastards and will do anything they can to try to seduce the gullible public into buying enormous quantities of meretricious trash for the Christmas market. So I've been asked to lend my name to this blatant attempt to part you from your cash. What is the Infinite Monkey Cage anyway? Apart from being a terrific song written and sung by yours truly with every single instrumental played by Jeff Lynne, and certainly something you should try to download for Christmas, but no, it's the sodding BBC and it's not available, or they'd have to pay for something. That's why you're stuck with this book. I think you'll find it very helpful. It's useful for keeping a door propped open or to put on your Christmas table to stop the hot plates blistering the plastic tablecloth. But do watch out for the Christmas pud. The book itself is highly flammable, and if it catches, you might possibly set fire to an elderly aunt. On the other hand, if you are cold, simply stick it in the grate and it will make a lovely Christmas blaze. As you know, scientists are the new chefs, so pity poor Ince, once a halfway decent comedian, now stuck alongside a glamour boy professor playing Robin to his Batman. Still, if it stops him having to play Colchester again, I suppose the whole thing has been worth it. One or two words about the monkey cage itself. Is the cage infinite, or are the monkeys infinite? Perhaps they are both infinite. In a multiverse, would there be an infinite donkey cage? I think we should be told. Well, that's about it. I should be spending Christmas Day in the traditional way on a Thai massage table, listening to the sounds of the 70s. Sadly, we don't get the Queen's speech here in Bangkok, but there are one or two compensations. There is an inspirational message from Jose Marino and a bottle of gluten-free almond wine for the ancient teetotaling ex-python sent by John Cleese from his cellars, where he hangs upside down during the winter season. To all of you, please enjoy your expanding universe for another year, and do try to buy more Monty Python shit. We're getting on a little bit now, and we do need the cash. Yours, Eric Idle. There we go. You don't get a lovelier introduction than that. And I hope Eric. I don't know. It will depend, but I will ask Eric again, and with luck, he may well join us on the 19th, as I said, 19th, 7 o'clock. We'll have Tim Peake with us, the Ugly Animal Preservation Society, and various other things. But now, I think we're going to go live to Marcus Brigstocke and Rachel Parris. Are you there? Fantastic. You're in a photo booth by the looks of things.
That's correct.
That's right, yeah.
Look at this beautiful spangly background that we've hung especially for you.
Now, I certainly know, I think you are, Marcus. Rachel, I don't know as well in terms of, Marcus, you're a very Christmassy kind of person, aren't you?
I love a bit of Christmas, mate. Look at this. Look at this. I love it. I think it's sensational. Rachel, even more so.
I would say I absolutely love Christmas, but in a slightly different way to Marcus. I'm less obsessed with Santa Claus. I'm not a big fan of the Santa Claus myth.
I'm all over it. Robin, would you like a little Christmas song?
Well, why not? Yeah, we will have a Christmas song. Why not?
All right. Here we go. Good luck.
1, 2, 3. You better not pout, you better not cry. Okay, you better not cry. You better not pout, you better not cry. Go on, do it. Okay. You better watch out, you better not cry. You better not pout, I'm telling you why. Santa Claus is coming to town.
He's making a list, he's checking it twice. He's gonna find out who's naughty or nice. Santa Claus is coming to town.
He sees you when you're sleeping. He knows if you're awake. He sees if you're asleep or not, so you better not be awake. Oh, he's watching you sleep. He sees if you sleep. He's got his finger all over your eyelids. Santa Claus is watching you sleep. He's watching you sleep. He knows you're asleep. He wants you asleep, so you better stay asleep. Santa Claus is watching you sleep.
That was very pretty.
Very slightly creepy version of Santa Claus is coming to town for you there.
Well,
Robin, how long have you been awake?
Well, I've been awake for about 27 hours now, and we're now in this is the 24th hour of the show. So
wow, well,
Steve Pretty and I have been here for the whole thing. So we've been two floors down in King's Place for the last kind of 26 hours.
Sweet mercy.
What is the outside world like? Is it safe? Should we go? Should we stay in the cellar? We have a large collection of Celebrations chocolates, which I think would get us through perhaps to 2022.
There's sensational breaking news that Dominic Raab himself is on a heavily armoured pedalo heading for France and is, as we speak, sinking French fishing vessels. So, yeah, it's all happening. I would stay down there if I was you.
And what are you now? Because I imagine, was it in the last year, or maybe it was the year before, that of course Christmas is a time for cheese, Marcus, and you are of the order of the Grand Cheesemakers or something, aren't you?
Well, I'm a level 1 cheese master, yeah, which means Rachel has to put up with eye-watering amounts of cheese.
And people asking him about his cheese business all the time.
Constantly. I'm about 90% lactic acid at this stage.
We've been sent a cheese advent calendar, which means we've been sent 24 pieces of cheese, and not small little novelty bits of cheese, but whole cheeses, which is really nice. But we need now to buy a cheese fridge.
But to make up for it, Robin, and you're like this because of your keenness on science, as you're aware, some incredible scientists have been developing vaccines in lots of different places, working together and working independently. And I've managed to get for Rachel this year a vaccine advent calendar where behind each door there's a little syringe and you don't know until you take it which one it is. We think this morning's one was the untested Russian vaccine. So pretty exciting scenes in the build up to Christmas.
And I know you've been doing a lot of music stuff, especially during lockdown. You've been creating wonderful pieces of what have you, in terms of interpreting songs individually? Rachel, what has been the song you have most enjoyed interpreting during one of the lockdown periods where you were putting on that show?
Interpreting
the lip sync stuff.
I like doing 4 Non-Blondes. That was quite fun. And Wuthering Heights by Kate Bush. I think I enjoyed giving my Kate Bush to the world. that was good.
For me, it's got to be the all-time classic "Boom Shake the Room."
And
we've got some more music for you now, if you like, Robin.
We would like as much music as you've got. We're actually, for the first time ever, due to the technical glitch, underrunning. Somehow we've always overrun with shows that are 3 hours long, but it turns out with a 24-hour show, there is a possibility of an underrun. So if you want to do the whole of Jeff Wayne's War of the Worlds, from Richard Byrne intro to the final 20th century terrifying Martian denouement, then please feel free.
Well,
All right, well, we've got a little music quiz for you, and for the people watching. So we invite them to, in the comfort of their homes, to
message in,
or just between themselves, just to guess what the song is that we're singing. But we're going to sing the song to a different genre of music.
You'll get them. You'll get them. It's just a question of how quickly you can identify them.
Okay, here we go.
Well, I'm gonna find out from the live chat. So my answers will be from the live chat from other people as well who are listening at the moment. And if anyone wants to shout out here as well, let's find out.
Lovely.
Here we go.
Okay, here we go. Pack it in, let me begin. I came to win, that'll be, that's a sin. I can't turn the sack up, punk, you better back up, try and play the role. Oh, through a laptop, feed it, funk it, I'm sick to junk it, add up more rhymes, static up, static up, in donut shop. I got enough props from the kids on the hill, plus me mum and big box, I came to get down. I came to get down, so get off your sleeves and jump around.
Oh, what do you reckon down there? House of Pain, Jump Around is what we've had in this room.
There it is.
It's correct.
A lovely knees-up version of
Yeah,
Jump
in the
Around.
lead already.
So, how quickly can you identify this? What genre would you say this is?
I'd say it's in a sort of soldierly violin, starting wartime song.
Here we go. I hear the drums echoing tonight, but she hears only whispers of some quiet conversation. She's coming in 12:30 flight. The moonlit wings reflect the stars that guide me towards salvation. I stopped a man along the way, hoping to find some old forgotten words or ancient melodies. He turned to me as if to say, hurry boy, it's waiting there for you.
Has anyone got it yet?
I do know that. Hurry Boys, it's waiting for you. The early 80s.
Not to get you away from you.
There's nothing
Of
that
course,
a
I'm sorry. We've had
hundred
from the live chat, Toto by Africa.
Yes, it is.
Which there is the greatest version, if you have not seen it, of the lead singer of Toto. Have you seen the version? I must have sent it to you at some point, where he's playing some small festival, and it's so out of tune and so confused and so magnificent. And it's one of those things where, as it's gone totally out of control and he's ruining his greatest hit, suddenly the bass player just goes, I'm going to get him out of this, and just suddenly plays an entirely different jazz tune, as if everyone goes, all I remember was the bass player went wrong. No, the guy was right. It's fantastic. Look it up. I forget the name of the thing, but look up Toto Africa, worst ever version by original artist. I imagine that's what will come up, and you will just feast on that. What's he doing that? I'm trying to get you out of it, mate. It's brilliant. Right, let's have the next one then.
Here's one. Here we go.
Now this one, so you've got to guess the song, but I think people could also guess. We're doing it in the style of a particular band.
Yeah.
So
Here we go.
So it's a double whammy, this one. Right.
It's double whammy.
Now there's a backstreet lover that's always undercover. I talk to my daddy, say, said you ain't seen nothing till you're down on the muffin. Sure to be a change in ways.
Oh.
There's a cheerleader, a real big pleaser, as far as I can reminisce. But the best thing loving was a sister and a cousin. It started with a little kiss. Like this.
Oh, here we go. We've got Aerosmith.
Have you got it?
Is it Aerosmith?
Yeah.
Yes, it is.
Walk This Way by Aerosmith. It sounded kind of Boomtown Rats to me, but what was it? What was the...
Close.
It was the...
Oh, was it the... Oh, so that's why I was doing the... Oh, okay. Yeah, fair enough. I've entirely erased him from my cultural history. He's been a terribly naughty boy. That was a good... It's an interesting game, this, in the way that the moment you remove the tune, however well you know the lyrics, your brain starts to play... does something to it all.
Yeah, it really throws you, doesn't it?
Right, let's have another one then.
Oh, not Western Union. Wait, this one's got a backing track.
We've got a backing track. So
Here it comes, here it comes, here it comes.
Shorty had them apple bottom jeans.
Boots with the fur.
The whole club was looking at her.
She hit the floor.
She hit the floor.
Next thing you know,
Shorty got low.
low.
Them baggy sweatpants.
And the Reebok with the strap.
She turned around and gave that big booty a smack.
She hit the floor.
She hit the floor.
Next thing you know,
Next thing you know,
Shorty got low.
Have we got anything in the room? No, you've drawn a blank here. We've got nothing on the feed either. So you've really foxed everyone.
All right.
it's Low by Flo.
Oh, hang on.
Rida.
Flow Rider Low.
Yes.
That's right. Low by Flo Rida. Yeah, in a country and western, an up-tempo country and western style.
And that was Electron Ash. Well done, Electron Ash. That's fantastic. So that was Electron Ash got Flow. Have you got one more for us?
All right. Identify this one.
He was a boy, she was a girl, and I make it obvious.
Yeah,
He
we
was
got. So we got Skater Boy.
Yes.
Oh, nailed it
Very good.
immediately.
Very
This
good.
corner is so far in the lead. It's such a pity we can't give them a gift due to COVID rules.
What a shame. All right, this one you'll get. Here we go. Yeah.
Well, we've got some half-price cracked ice.
Oh, yeah.
And miles of carpet ties.
Got the carpet dials.
And TVs, and deep freeze, and David Bowie LPs.
We got a David Bowie LPs, yeah.
And pool games, gold chains, wise names. Out of push,
Adam Bush.
some Trevor Francis tracksuits.
We got those tracksuits.
From a mush in Shepherd's Bush. No income tax,
No income tax.
no VAT,
No.
no money back, no
Oh,
guarantee.
great. Yeah, you got it now, haven't you? Yeah. There we go. Yeah, the only Fools and Horses theme tune.
That's right.
That's it.
What a sexy version, though.
Black or white, rich or broke. Welcome prices out of stroke. I gotta say, God, yes.
Look at history.
A thing down, look at history.
Tell me.
Lonely, look at history.
It's magnifique. It's Hook History. It's magnifique. It's Hook History.
That is
And we
very,
will be releasing that version illegally over the coming weeks.
that is very big. And I hope the B-side will be whatever you've done with the theme from Minder. I think that will be a real, absolute treat. Thank you so much for joining us.
No problem, mate. Listen, huge congratulations to you for doing this. Brilliant as always. Sorry about the technical cock-up.
Oh, don't worry. Everything is absolutely fine. Have a very happy Christmas. I hope we'll be working
you
together
too,
in the
mate.
same
Love you
room next
loads.
year. Thank you very much. Thank you, Rachel Parris and Marcus Brigstocke.
Hey guys.
Okay, guys.
Now, we're getting very close, I think. I think what we're going to go to is Chris Lintott. Are we going to go to Chris Lintott now? Everyone's gone. No one told me. All the crew have gone. No one's left.
They've all gone home. Already?
Chris is ready. Can we try and put the screen on at the back of the room again, if possible?
I'm here if you
so
can hear me,
we're going to
Robin.
have the latest. There he is. I'll tell you what, Chris. What I like is your eyes look different to the way they looked before. You now have the look of a wired astronomer. I'm kind of annoyed that you haven't also just got a ring of shoe polish around one eye. That someone's
I mean,
he's sleepy
I am
now.
covered in ink. My pen leaked while I was trying to do a calculation, which is the most physicist I've been in a while. So I'm suffering for my science here.
So, what is the news then in terms of earlier on we saw there were images which suggested observation of a supernova. Where have we got to on that?
Well, we've got really exciting news, actually, which is that we've achieved our target. We found not just a supernova, but a special kind of supernova. So we got observations in from our friends in Hawaii who've been following up on discoveries made by 9 Lessons viewers via the Zooniverse. I want to talk about one particular object. We've got
about 25 candidates, but there's one in particular that's good. So if we've got slides, if Trent's awake back there, and we can show you the first image, hopefully you can see that. Yep. You should see 3 images. The middle one is, as ever, a reference image. So the blob is a galaxy. But in the image on the left, which was taken just a couple of days ago, you can see there's a new faint dot of light, and that's the supernova. The list of people up there, by the way, those are the people who identified it on our project. So if your name's there, you're now officially a discoverer of a supernova. Now, what we did was we passed this to friends in Hawaii. If you go to slide 2, this is the University of Hawaii 88-inch telescope, or at least the dome. On there's an instrument which is rather wonderfully called SNIF, which is great. And we've been looking to take a spectrum. So if you go to if you go to slide 3, then you will see the spectrum of our new supernova. The team have just said exciting new news in text chat, so I'm just trying to get them to tell me what the news is. Anyway, this spectrum. So this confirms it's a supernova. It confirms it's at the same distance as the galaxy, and we were looking for a particular kind of supernova, a type 1A. And they're excited because they always go bang with the same amount of bang. They're always the same brightness. And so you can use them to calculate the age of the universe. Now, this is a type 1A. So we got one of the rare types that we were looking for. It's actually a weird type of supernova that I'd never heard of before this morning. This is a supernova type 1A 91BG. Now, you'll be familiar with 91BG, of course, Robin.
Oh, God, Brian doesn't stop banging on about the 91BGs he's seen with his magic telescope.
Well, exactly. They're underluminous, as he has undoubtedly told you. So we actually don't know what causes this type of supernova. It might be 2 colliding white dwarfs. It might be rather like a normal type 1A where you have a big star and then a white dwarf. But that doesn't stop cosmologists. Uncertainty has never scared off cosmologists. So even though we don't know what these things are, they always go bang with the same slightly more pathetic bang than a normal type 1A. So that means we can still use them to calculate the age of the universe. So based only on this supernova, which we did not know about 24 hours ago, and based only on the calculations which I've done after a pot of coffee this morning, and the spectrum that we've taken, we can calculate that something called the Hubble constant, which is the rate of expansion in the universe, is 76.25 kilometers per second per megaparsec, which means nothing to you, but translates to an age of the universe of 12.8 billion years. So that's just based on one supernova. That's our very own 9 lessons calculation. Now, that's a bit less. It's about 1 billion years less than the traditional number, which is 13.8 billion. And so you shouldn't suddenly switch. Don't throw out 1 billion years worth of history just on the basis of one supernova. But it does tell you that when we put this one into the box with all of the other supernovae that our surveys and our project are capturing, we're likely to have collectively reduced the age of the universe a little bit. So the universe is younger than we thought it was yesterday, which is, I suspect, not how it feels to you on stage right now.
Well, I do know that the universe has always been a little bit kind of vain, hasn't it? And the universe has always suggested that it's not quite the age, and there's always been a little bit annoyed with you suggesting it's as dowdy as it is. So in terms of reduction, I mean, give us a sense of that scale of what kind of reduction in age we're talking about.
Oh, I actually haven't managed to do, because this all came in so recently, I haven't managed to do the calculation. But my guess is that if you take a typical supernova that's under age, 1 billion years is quite a lot. So if we put that in, maybe we'll shave maybe 10,000 years off the known age of the universe, which is a bad work for one night. Now, by the way, while we're talking, we're just getting data from Chile coming in for another discovery. So our friend Luis Galbani, who works in something called the PESTO Consortium, these are all astronomical acronyms, they've been on telescopes in Chile. They followed up one of our other supernovae, and that one's real too. So that's 2 confirmed supernovae. The second one is not a type 1A. So most supernovae are big stars that go bang at the end of their lives. And that seems to be what's happening with this other one. But just to recap what's happened, we took data from telescope in Hawaii that was taken in the last week. We put it online. People went to a website and sat while in front of the telly, clicking away. We've had astronomers around the world sort through that data. We've then had people in Hawaii and Chile follow up, and we have spectrum. We've published all of these results already. So we'll put links on Twitter, but several viewers have their names in scientific announcements, which are up on a server, and people around the world will be using these for their science for the next few days.
That's fantastic. And again, just to explain for people who weren't here at the beginning, who might not know, of course, you've written a fantastic book about the Zooniverse as well. Can we just go, do a little bit of a recap of what the aim, because it does seem to me that one of the important things that the Zooniverse does is, whether it's dealing with kind of issues of natural history or whether it's dealing with ideas of cosmology, is it allows people who are not necessarily, who aren't more than likely qualified scientists to have a sense of connection with the exploration of the universe and the exploration of the living planet.
Yeah, I think that's right, because this isn't a stunt, right? So this is, obviously we're doing it in 24 hours for fun, but we needed to look at this data. So we have so much data about the world, whether that's from big telescope surveys or from camera traps that tell ecologists about the natural world, or my mate Tom, who's got 8 million images of penguins he doesn't know what to do with, or from the scanning electron microscopes just opposite where you are in the basement at the Crick Institute can produce terabytes of data very quickly, and we need to sort through these. So there's this very visual connection to science, and we've discovered that the best way to deal with that flood of data is to ask for help. And so the Zooniverse is a collection of a couple of million people who've given a little bit of their spare time to be part of science. And what that does, I think, is it's very different from, as an academic, if I want to talk about my science, I normally copy Brian Cox, stand on a big stage and lecture about the wonderful things that me and my friends have found out about the universe. It's a very different thing to be sitting here going, okay, together we've discovered a supernova and found out about the age of the universe. And we all did that. People who clicked and said, yes, they thought there was something here. But also all the people, we know that there are people who looked at thousands of images and didn't find a supernova. Well, that's science too, right? You still contributed by saying, no, don't pay attention to this one, don't pay attention to this one. And so it really illustrates science is this collective endeavor, and it's something that we can all have as part of our lives, rather than just something you see on stage or just for Christmas.
Now, I wanted to ask you about something else as well. When I was interviewing Katie Mack at about 3:30 a.m., there was something I suddenly remembered you said, which I found when we were chatting a while ago, which was your fear about the idea that the universe is ultimately boring, that it's homogeneous nature. If you get a large enough block of universe, you can just keep replicating it and going, that's what it looks like, that's what it looks like, so you can just make it into tiles. So can you enlarge a little bit on that?
Yeah, that's a fundamental principle in some sense of how we think about the universe, because you want to believe that the bit of the universe that we can see is representative of all of it, because then we can do science, right? The measurements we make of the universe around us are then representative of the whole thing. But I think what I was talking about was we were having a nice chat about the things cosmology does to your brain, and that sense that if the universe is infinite or near infinite and it repeats again and again and again, I find that kind of disturbing. I want there to be infinite, what's the Star Trek thing? Infinite variety and infinite combinations as you travel. I've got that wrong. I know I've got one of those words wrong, and Star Trek people are going to hate me. Never mind. You get this idea that you can travel through, that I want to travel through the universe and see endless variation. And I want to be surprised by the universe. One of the bits of science that we do with the Zooniverse is to try and look for the really unusual things, because they often have the most interesting stories. So through Zooniverse, we found many times completely unexpected types of object. And astronomy is still a science where you can learn a lot from one weird thing. It doesn't just have to be about your everyday supernovae. Your 91 BGs have a place as well.
What would you say to talking to physicists and biologists? Quite often there's this idea that the more that we understand about the structure and the nature of the universe, the simpler it becomes, and yet the more that we understand about life. So basically the difference perhaps between physics and biology, the more you discover about life. So someone like Adam Rutherford would say, well, we're better than physics in one way because we have come up with a theory of everything. It's just that theory of everything then leads to just an enormous number of questions about so many different individual living creatures.
Yeah, well, I think it depends which physicists you talk to, because I know you're mostly hanging out with, theoretical physicists and cosmologists who like a nice, simple explanation. But I'm an old school astronomer. I'm an observational astronomer, which means I act much more like a biologist. I like to collect my galaxies and I'll put labels on them, and then I'll try and understand why they came to be that way. And often that's a chaotic process. Our galaxy looks the way it does because of the things that have happened to it in its life, in the same way that I look the way I do. Partly genetics, which we could try and understand, but partly because of the things that have happened to me during my life. And so I think this sort of observational science, it occasionally gets a bit of a bad rap from theorists who want things to be simple. But I think that it's a completely valid way of trying to understand the world, and it allows you to deal with more complicated things than particles, right? Galaxies have more interesting stories because there's more going on. You have to understand chemistry, you have to understand the detailed physics of gravity, and you have to understand all sorts of things to try and tell the story of a single galaxy. And we have, by the way, just finished sorting through, while I'm live on screen, we've just finished sorting through our data. So we are done with supernovae, and people could go and find a different Zooniverse project to take part in.
Thank you so much, and we'll make sure we put that up on cosmicshambles.com when we've got all that collated, etc. We will stick that up there so people can see exactly what has kind of been discovered over the last 24 hours. It's been a fantastic project. It's been a joy to have you joining us throughout the last 24 hours. Ladies and gentlemen, Chris Lintott. And I think in a minute we're probably going to find out what the ultimate charity total was. But first of all, I think we're going to find out, Steve, you've written a Christmas number one.
I have. Well, but we collectively, as a show, have written a Christmas number one. You feature in it, Robin, rather heavily. So, yeah, at the beginning of the show, I asked for submissions for this track, and I've been hastily trying to compile it whilst the show's been going on stage. That's what we're doing on this laptop. It is online. You will be able to buy it for charity, of course. But I'm just waiting on some artworks. It won't let me upload it without the artworks. I'm just waiting on some artwork from Trent, but it will be on bandcamp.com/Steve Pretty. And it's called One Lesson and Carol, for want of a better title. Here we are. Let me play it for you. It features some of the guests from the first half of the show and lots of fantastic contributions. So let me play it out for you. Here we are.
It is I, Father Christmas. Together we can make this COVID-19 Christmas as magical as any other.
Thank you very much to Father Christmas there.
You know, we have the tradition of the star, you know, in Bethlehem. And this year, of course, we have two of the largest planets coming together to give us sort of a Christmas star. But the space station is a star of its own, like a jewel in the night.
There in the wine is the great generalization of all life. All life is fermentation. Nobody can discover the chemistry of wine without discovering the cause of much disease. How vivid is the claret pressing its existence into the consciousness that watches it. If our small minds for some convenience divide this glass of wine, this universe into parts and so on, remember that nature doesn't know it. So let us all put it back together, not forgetting ultimately what it is for. Let us give us one more final pleasure. Drink it up and forget about it all.
When I was floating by the window, I felt this great sense of wonder and awe, and I felt like a little tiny ant, you know, looking at a giant forest. Number one, feeling small, but at the same time, seeing just how important it is to be able to understand it and put ourselves right out on the edge of what we experience. So I feel sort of a sense of peace. And I knew I might die, but I know I'm going to die anyway. We're all going to die. The real question is, what do you do while you're alive?
It was always said of him that he knew how to keep Christmas well, if any man alive possessed the knowledge. May that be truly said of us, and all of us. And so, as Tiny Tim observed, God bless us, everyone.
Brilliant.
There we are. So that will be available on Bandcamp very shortly. So if you'd like to buy a little souvenir of the show, why not?
Lovely. Thank you very much. Steve has been with us all day and all night as well. So let's have a big round of applause for the work of Steve.
Thank you very much for having me. It's been a roller coaster.
Yeah, hasn't it? The first show we've ever underrun. I'm not sure where we're going to go next because we don't know if Helen's made it to Greenwich. I can't fill a bit. You know what? You know when you get the producer saying, you can fill a bit. No, I can't. I've been here 23 hours, 40 minutes standing on this stage. This is not the time. You know what? I think I'll probably improvise. Yeah, give me a towel. Give me a household object. I want to end. I'll tell you what we haven't done. The first time that I ever worked. Well, in fact, it was one of the times that I think one of the first times that Brian and me kind of probably got chatting together was one of the things that we always, both of us, used in the shows that we were doing at the time that we would read out from. So I feel that the two things we might do while we're waiting for Helen is one of them is I've lost my earpiece as well. Hang on a minute. One of them is reading that great moment of. Actually, I'll tell you what I've not read. I'm going to read some Seamus Heaney. Why don't I read some Seamus Heaney? Do you want to kind of just play along to it and see what happens?
Sure, all right, yeah.
It's Seamus Heaney or the Guy and Smith Giant Killer Crabs novels. This is just what I love about Seamus Heaney. I'm sure many of you love the work of Seamus Heaney as well. He, again, was someone in terms of the natural world, the way, and I won't do it justice in the reading of it, obviously, but you have to listen to Seamus Heaney reading his own poems. But I love, there's one called Blackberry Picking, and it just, the fruitiness of the experience and the ultimate sense of failure at keeping something beautiful and delicious and wonderful alive. And it has such a kind of, to me, such resonance about so many of the battles we have, the delight that there is. So this is Blackberry Picking by Seamus Heaney. Late August, given heavy rain and sun, for a full week the blackberries would ripen. At first, just one, a glossy purple clot, among others, red, green, hard as a knot. You ate that first one, and its flesh was sweet, like thickened wine. Summer's blood was in it, leaving stains upon the tongue and lust for picking. Then red ones inked up, and that hunger sent us out with milk cans, pea tins, jam pots, where briars scratched and wet grass bleached our boots. Round hayfields, cornfields and potato drills, we trekked and picked until the cans were full, until the tinkling bottom had been covered with green ones, and on the top, big dark blobs burnt like a plate of eyes. Our hands were peppered with thorn pricks, our palms sticky as bluebeards. We hoarded the fresh berries in the byre, but when the bath was filled, we found a fur, a rat-grey fungus glutting on our cash. The juice was stinking too. Once off the bush, the fruit fermented, the sweet flesh turned sour. I always felt like crying, it wasn't fair, that all the lovely canfuls smelt of rot. Each year I hoped they'd keep, knew they would not. Sorry. Thank you so much. I've lost all sense of this is. I used to be able to do the longest show I ever did. I did 52 hours once up at the Prince Charles Cinema. I definitely could not do that at 51 years old now. Now, this is, as I mentioned, this is, I suppose it's almost, if you were looking for what might be called, a secular biblical text, it probably is Pale Blue Dot. And I do think it's been a lovely. I mean, one of the things that's lovely tonight is, and this morning and all the different times, is when we've had conversations with, and in particular, it is the astronauts. There is Rusty Schweikart, who I was mentioning earlier, and talking to Rusty Schweikart, Apollo 9 astronaut, who put so much thought. I remember talking to someone who wrote quite a lot about the Apollo missions, and they said it's a hard thing that sometimes people are disappointed with Apollo astronauts to a certain extent, that they are not necessarily that lyrical, that they don't go through the kind of the poetry of it. And he said that's because there's a limited bandwidth. To be an Apollo astronaut in the first place requires an enormous amount of the space of your brain to deal with being at the cutting edge of something like that, to be able to manage to get to the moon, to deal with all of anyone who perhaps heard Kevin Fong's series, the 13 Minutes to the Moon, wonderful series on the World Service, will know when you talk to the people the number of different, the tiny details, knowing that the lunar, that the landing module, the actual thickness of the metal to ensure it was light enough was no more than a Coke can. That if you actually had a pen, you could just stab it through that. I mean, that is an incredible thing. And he said to then have the extra bandwidth to be able to have that sense, that excitement, that looking back at the Earth and realising its kind of philosophical and psychological implications. If anyone here who's read Arthur C. Clarke's The Sentinel will know that the beautiful story that then went on to be 2001: A Space Odyssey. That idea that there would be placed a monolith on the nearest other organic structure out in space, and that they would be placed there by an extraterrestrial intelligence, knowing that if the animals that lived on that planet had the desire to journey out and went, well, let's go to the next nearest place, then when they touched that monolith, a signal would go out going, this is a planet that is worth investigating, because on this planet is a creature that is curious. Right? And that curiosity, and I remember talking to Kevin Funk, said, one of the people who had that was Jim Lovell. Jim Lovell, who Apollo 8 and Apollo 13, and Jim Lovell, who, that moment when they looked out the window on Apollo 8, the beautiful story of the fact that on Apollo 8, one of the reasons Earthrise, which again, talking to a few astronauts, almost some people now say more important than landing on the moon. Because J.G. Ballard was quite negative about things like the journey to the moon. He said, the trouble with astronauts is they don't dream and they don't kind of have this. And I think he was wrong about that. I much as I love the work of J.G. Ballard. But the thing was, it wasn't going to the moon. He said the moon was a boring place. And that didn't matter that the moon was a bit boring. And that, in fact, some of the astronauts actually went, I'm a bit disappointed by the moon. It was the fact that on the moon, they looked back at their own planet for the first time, and we got that incredible picture, that Earthrise image, and that has had incredible ramifications for the politicizing and activism within the ecological movement and other things as well. And so that looking back, and Rusty had this thing where he ended up, as we talked about back now, whatever it was, 5 o'clock yesterday afternoon, and we were talking about that he prepared for the Apollo 9 mission. He would sit at home on a Sunday afternoon, and his wife, I think, as far as I remember, was out at choir practice, and he would just have time on his own, and he would read from great literature, and he would listen to wonderful pieces of music. And he was thinking, because already at that point he was thinking, what am I doing? I'm going out into space, and I need to prepare myself more than just the technological side. I need to think about what the ramifications for humanity are. And he actually has, I think you can buy them sometimes. They're sometimes up for auction. He made these tiny little scrolls on kind of Bible, very thin Bible paper, just so he could take them with him. And on them contained quotations from great works by great human beings. And because he said, I want to carry with me some of the wonderful thoughts that humans have had. And then he had this moment where, because of a camera jamming, he ended up having 5 minutes free time floating in space. And that was the point where he was looking back at the planet Earth and thinking about the ramifications again. And they're just thinking, that's my planet. I've got nothing else to do. On Apollo missions, you're generally pretty busy. And this point, I can just think about that. And yet still, it wasn't at that point. It was obviously on that journey.
But it was 5 years later. I think it was Bill Irwin Thompson. I think that's the name, William Irwin Thompson, who's a philosopher, who was quite negative about when he met Rusty, and it was before the launch of Apollo 17. I think it's right. Apollo 17, as far as I remember, was the only nighttime launch. There was a delay. So if you've not seen the footage of it, Apollo 17, it's on YouTube. It is remarkable. It is justice because the rest of the day, and suddenly it's the blackness of night, and then the explosion beneath the module, the Saturn V as it propelled into space. And he said when he first met Bill Irwin Thompson, he kind of thought astronauts, the whole Apollo thing, was this gung-ho John Wayne thing that was going on in America. And then he took him to see the launch of Apollo 17, and you have sounds that you experience bodily, sounds that reverberate, have the frequency of your internal organs, right? There are things going on that you don't even realize you're experiencing. And he said he looked at William Irwin Thompson at that point, and he could see there was a change. He thought this is more than just some cowboy movie that's going up towards the moon. And nevertheless, this then led to Bill Irwin Thompson going, well, can you come and speak at this thing I do? I have kind of philosophers and scientists, and Carl Sagan was going to be there amongst others, and talk to people. And one of the things that was also very important about Rusty is, do you know what? I've got to admit, Steve, I'm pretty impressed by my ability to fill time.
It's pretty extraordinary. I was just thinking exactly that.
But I love this story so much, and I love talking to Rusty so much because he said so he went to this place where one of the things that also motivated Rusty was the fact that he was worried that the right wing would be the people who basically, they would be the technocrats, and that the left wing at that point and the counterculture, they would kind of be, oh no, we don't want to get involved with all of this kind of stuff. And he said, it's very, very important that the counterculture and those on the left and the liberals, that they are actively involved with technology and they understand the technology because there is such power there. So he goes off to Lindisfarne and he hasn't prepared a speech really. He's kept thinking about, I've got to do this speech. I must get around to doing this speech. And then he goes off, he walks up a hill. He thinks, I'll walk up this hill and I'll write the speech there. And then it turns out there is a guy playing, I think is it tabla drums? What are those drums called?
What, from Lindisfarne?
No, just one of those drums, the tabla drums.
The tabla are from India, but
tabla drums. Well, that was what they would be. They were tabla drums. This is Lindisfarne's, not the one that's off the coast of the UK, but a Lindisfarne that was actually on Long Island in the USA. And he goes up and he's trying to think about the speech, but this guy is playing this music so beautifully. The percussion is so wonderful that he just gets lost in a reverie of percussion. And so finally he gets down to do the speech, and he thinks, I've got 3 cards and I haven't really worked it out. And then he just goes and stands on stage and he starts to talk, and he has one of those experiences that I'm sure many people watching and many of you out there as well have had, where you don't even realize what's coming out of your mouth. And every now and again you feel like a secondary passenger just watching and going, I don't really know where these words are coming from, but I think they mean something. And so 5 years after he'd been floating in space, he then had what you might call his kind of, the Damascene moment came to fruition, where he suddenly realized the full implications and the importance, what he feels is the importance of our journey into space. That there is a point that Mother Earth, basically, once the child gets to a certain age, or even in fact when you are inside the mother, there is a point where no longer is there enough food for you. No longer can you survive within, and you must journey out. And it is just the most wonderful speech, and his own realization of the implications of being a curious and exploring creature. And so if any of you, after you've kind of watched this, just go straight away, go to again, it's on YouTube, and it is, I think you'll just find it, put in Rusty Schweikart. It should be under Lindisfarne. Sometimes it's a weird thing because not that many people have watched it. And yet, for me, it is one of the most magnificent speeches that have been made by any astronaut, I think. And I know that in that room at the time afterwards, most of the people in the room were in tears of the implications of being these wonderful, curious creatures. So that was anyway. That's my introduction to a short reading of 2 paragraphs from Pale Blue Dot.
Amazing.
But do go and say it now. I'll just find out. So is Helen there? Have we got to Helen? How's it going? Well, I don't know. I think I also think the battery's gone in my pack, so that won't help as well. So
it could have lasted another 10 minutes. It's been ungrateful, isn't it?
So I'll tell you what, we're going to go live to Helen, and if she doesn't turn up, it means that whatever you've been saying to me is she's not here yet. So let's find out. Helen, are you there?
No, she's not there yet. So let me, as I said, I do think this is, as we mentioned quite a lot over the last 24 hours, I hope that one of the positive things that's happened for some people during lockdown is that increased sense of connection with the living world. And I know there's been, and I'm not saying that I no way, of course, mean, hey, it's all positives or anything like that. I just mean that sometimes during terrible times, and I know for people I know who have had terrible times during this, there are within those things as well the moments that are, the book that I've been working on, which I want to call The Shabby Curate, but I don't think the publisher will let me, because there's a great line by W.H. Auden where he says that when he is in a room filled with scientists, he feels like a shabby curate in a room full of bishops. And I thought, that's kind of my life. My life is always being the shabby curate. Every single week I'm making shows with people who have incredible minds and incredible abilities to explore so many different worlds. In the Monkey Cage series that we're just working on at the moment, sometimes it is someone who has been working on the cutting edge of particle physics, and sometimes it is someone who is working on the cutting edge of understanding houseflies. And both of them have within them just incredible stories and incredible adventures. That the Fly one, to be honest, is a very rude show. For a 4:30 show, it has a surprising amount about fly genitalia, and including one particular. Here we go. That's the sound of Skype, I believe, but that's no longer the sound of Skype. Or I'm getting Skype tinnitus. That also happens in a 24-hour situation. There was one particular. This was the one that I still don't understand, which was there's one fly that apparently its sperm is bigger than it is. I have no idea how that works.
Sorry, just before you start that, I think they've got some batteries for your pack.
Oh, you've got a battery for the pack? Great. So, you know what? Thank you very much for that. I thought that one thing I'd need to do at some point, which I haven't had to do at all, just to kind of keep me awake and stuff, was tell a story involving Brian Blessed, but I didn't have to.
No, zero Brian Blessed.
I will just talk about, Schrodinger's Flash Gordon.
Because you even did the for the sound check yesterday or 2 days ago now.
Yeah, I always have it spare, and I never know if I haven't done Brian Blessed for a while, and because of lockdown I haven't done it for 9 months. If you go into Brian Blessed cold, oh my God, it can crack you wide open. But that was still one of my favourite things when a friend of mine, actually Fraser, came up with the idea. He said, why not, rather than, because Brian always goes, I must do the bit from Flash Gordon. They bloody love it, right? And we said, you can't do that. And my friend Fraser said, why not do Schrodinger's Flash Gordon? So he has to go, Gordon's alive and dead. He's in a superposition. And
so now you have done it. So we didn't get through the show without it.
Oh, I've got nothing left
I've got no voice left, and I've barely been talking.
Well, that's also because we've been in an air-conditioned room. We will not have any voice for the rest of the day. So what a lovely thing for our families, who I'm sure have got very bored of us. Oh, there's nothing worse than for all of those poor partners of acts that have predominantly been touring for the whole of that partnership. And they go, I always thought that I loved you, but that's because we never had to live together, because you were always either in Inverness or Toronto. But now you're here. Trent, what's going on, please? It's all right. I've got a new battery. What are we doing? Oh, okay, great. So let's just read this. This is such an important piece, because I think I was lucky. In fact, we've done an interview. I'm not sure where it is, but it should be on the Cosmic Shambles site. Did a couple of different interviews with Andrian recently. Andrian, who, of course, a lot of work with Carl Sagan, was the artistic director of the Golden Record, co-wrote some of the chapters of the Demon Haunted World, and co-wrote the whole of the Shadows of Forgotten Ancestors and Comet as well, with Carl Sagan. And she talked so beautifully about the day that they got the famous pale blue dot picture, that famous picture of the planet Earth as a mote of dust suspended in a sunbeam. Here she is. Here's Helen. This is wonderful. But she said it was actually Valentine's Day. I think it was Valentine's Day 1981. I might be wrong on the year, but I know it was Valentine's Day. And she said, for Carl Sagan to come home, and the Valentine's gift was basically, look, that picture that we fought for,
The picture. I mean, this is one of the interesting things. So many of the most wonderful photos that have been taken during space exploration have not been on the agenda. They've not been on the itinerary. Sometimes people on the actual mission, like Apollo 8, Borman, who was in charge of that, was saying, what are you doing? Why are you pointing that camera at the Earth? And in the same way, NASA, we're like going, why is the last photo you want Voyager to take? Why do you want it to take this picture of the Earth from such distance? And both of those images, the images that were not in the planning meetings, they are the iconic images which address the situation of our fragility. Right, so have we got Helen now?
She was there a minute ago.
She is very enigmatic nowadays, isn't she? So let's just read that. Do you want to play something along to this? You know, You know Pale Blue Dot, don't you? You ready? Oh, the trumpet. Let's see if you've still got that left. Yeah, as we said when he first played the trumpet at midday with an audience in a COVID situation, there is nothing more threatening than a man blowing through a brass megaphone. So here we are. This is a Pale Blue Dot. Look again at that dot. That's here. That's home. That's us. On it, everyone you love, everyone you know, everyone you ever heard of, every human being who ever was, lived out their lives. The aggregate of our joy and suffering, thousands of confident religions, ideologies and economic doctrines, every hunter and forager, every hero and coward, every creator and destroyer, every king and peasant, every young couple in love, every mother and father, hopeful child, inventor and explorer, every teacher of morals, every corrupt politician, every superstar, every supreme leader, every saint and sinner in the history of our species lived there on a mote of dust suspended in a sunbeam. The Earth is a very small stage in a vast cosmic arena. Think of the rivers of blood spilled by all those generals and emperors so that in glory and triumph they could become the momentary masters of a fraction of a dot. Think of the endless cruelties visited by inhabitants of one corner of this pixel on the scarcely distinguishable inhabitants of some other corner. How frequent their misunderstandings, how eager they are to kill one another, how fervent their hatreds. Our posturings, our imagined self-importance, the delusion that we have some privileged position in the universe are challenged by this point of pale light. Our planet is a lonely speck in the great enveloping cosmic dark. In our obscurity, in all this vastness, there is no hint that help will come from elsewhere to save us from ourselves. The Earth is the only world known so far to harbour life. There is nowhere else, at least in the near future, to which our species could migrate. Visit, yes. Settle, not yet. Like it or not, for the moment the Earth is where we make our stand. It has been said that astronomy is a humbling and character-building experience. There is perhaps no better demonstration of the folly of human conceits than this distant image of our tiny world. To me, it underscores our responsibility to deal more kindly with one another and to preserve and cherish the pale blue dot, the only home we've ever known.
Whenever you want. We're just waiting. Hi, Helen. How you doing?
Hello.
So you made it.
I've been here for a while, and I would like everybody to note that the clock says 11:59.
Brilliant.
And then I would like to tell you why it matters, because I have cycled 5,000 kilometres this year around London. I have had one puncture until Friday, because on the way here, I had a third one in the other wheel, the one that didn't have a puncture yesterday.
Oh, man.
So I left my bike at King's Cross Station. I got on the tube and the DLR. I sprinted up the hill, and I am on the Meridian line for 12 o'clock.
Brilliant.
So
it is turn 12.
I can hear the bells chiming over there from the local church. So this is, here we are the Earth has spun one full rotation while you've been in that dark room at the bottom of King's Place.
Yeah, and I guess that's what the observatory does, right? Time passes, the observatory spins around and looks out at the universe. And yeah, this show is still spinning with it.
So it's one of those beautiful things when you talk about. It makes me immediately think of in some ways the rather sad thing in. Have you seen Behind the Curve? I can't remember the Flat Earth movie. Because this is one of those moments where human curiosity is so wonderful, but if it sometimes gets caught in dogma, as we know, can happen in any area, the refusal to accept what I think is a more beautiful truth, which is in Behind the Curve, if you've seen it, there are a lot of people who are flat, believe in the Earth being flat, who are smart and ingenious. And there is a guy who wants to, he thinks, hang on a minute, if the Earth is flat, right, if I make a gyroscope, if I've got a gyroscope, it will basically move by 15 degrees every hour because that's required for 360 degrees over 24 hours. So there should be a 15-degree shift. And what happens is he sets up the experiment, and what he discovers is there's a 15-degree shift. And he goes, oh, that must mean the experiment doesn't work. Not maybe the Earth isn't flat. And then he does a second experiment. He goes, maybe it's reacting to the sky. So he encases it in something. And it still gets 15 degrees, but he won't stop until he's got the answer that he wants. And I think, this is one of those things. Here is an ingenious and curious person who unfortunately also has dogma with him on this particular side. And I think, the story that you have to tell there and the turning of the Earth over the 24 hours that we've been here is there is more majesty in that story.
And also, it's great to think about that standing here, because I'm looking out over Greenwich Park and I'm standing where astronomers stood for centuries. The people, before anyone knew that some of the planets existed, before anyone knew what the sun really was, astronomers were standing on this point and making observations. There's 2 observatories beforehand, and this is where the measurements were made at the Royal Greenwich Observatory. And were made, partly for the Navy. Just down the hill is the National Maritime Museum and the Old Royal Naval College, because this was how they saw their world, right? A planet is something you want to travel across. In those days, you travelled by sea, and so the sea and the sky were completely, tied into each other. And when those ships' captains were at sea, all they saw was the sky. That was the thing that was constant in a world. They were exploring these places, discovering new countries. And the thing that stayed the same, at least until they crossed the equator into the other hemisphere, was the sky. That was the only recognizable thing in these amazingly foreign lands. And so there is, and it also says a lot about the symbolism of place. I mean, I think you're 6 miles away from me right now. It was worth sprinting across London to be in this place, right? Because sometimes places do have symbolism. And the fact that it's this place does matter. So yeah, it's sometimes nice to touch those things, and you can kind of feel the celestial clockwork turning.
That is beautiful. Thank you so much. Thank you for doing that as well. I hope your bike is safe. Do you want me to check on it? Because I'm only around the corner.
Words to have with my bike. I swear, I just can't believe. There has been a lot of broken glass on the streets of London, and normally I'm cycling slightly outside London. But yeah, well, I got my bit of fresh air for the day, but not as much as I was expecting. And if one of these shows wasn't completely ridiculous, I've done my bit, right? I've had the multi-layered cocktail made of stuff no one should ever drink. I've explained why there's science in a bottle opener, and yes, I'm all for the ridiculous. This is the fun bit, right? This isn't ridiculous. This is the show. It's why life is ridiculous and brilliant and full of curiosity, all at the same time.
That's the great thing. You've given us evidence-based absurdity. And that's sometimes the best form of absurdity. Kind. Thank you so much, Helen. Are we doing a conversation? I know at one point we're going to have a conversation. No, a conversation with an astronomer at one point. Ladies and gentlemen, hopefully we'll be back. We'll be back next Saturday at 7 o'clock. Helen and I think, as far as I know, putting together some of the things that you haven't seen, that we haven't, and having some new guests as well. Tim Peake's going to be joining us, the Ugly Animal Preservation Society, and we're going to hope that we're also going to be able to replay the Tim Minchin interview, if he's okay with that, and also Robert Smith, the 3 songs that he recorded for us. I will now hand you over to our producer, Trent Burton, who is an insomniac and wants everyone else to be, and therefore that's how he came up with this show.
I've just got some thank yous we have to do. All the performers, everyone. We had, I think it was 140-something people took part in this. Thank you to every performer. Thank you to everyone who watched and donated and came down and was part of our socially distanced audience. Thanks to everyone who was so active in the live chat, especially the people. There was a good couple of hundred, we think, that basically watched the entire 24 hours. Even when we had tech problems, they started their own science puzzle games in the live chat for like half an hour and stayed on the entire time. Thanks to all the King's Place team, especially we have to thank Holly and Katie, who, when we nearly lost the show at about 3 a.m, they saved it. Joe, who ran the social media and the live chat for basically the entire time. Well, in fact, it was the entire time. And she was ably assisted by Amy, Vanessa, and Sarah at different shifts. But Joe has been sat in a room back there for the entire show, chatting to everyone and tweeting everything. Melinda Burton, who is the co-producer and pretty much everything of this show, who is hiding down in the shadows there. She's been in the live chat all day, and none of this exists without her producing it with me. To Steve, obviously, this is absurd and wonderful. And a big round of applause at the end, of course, for Mr. Robin Ince. And because we're idiots, we've also got one last special surprise guest that should be coming up as soon as I get back to the booth.
Get back to the booth, there we are. Thank you. I'm trying to think of what I should recommend as well. I'm careful with your foot. This is a terrible thing, right? Trent has not been out of his house. He's been really, really safe and really, really careful for the entire kind of pretty much the 9 months, rarely ever going out. And then, so this meant when he left his flat the other day, on the very first step he took, he twisted his ankle and it basically went black. So that is the kind of thing that, and nevertheless, he's then had, been doing this. We've basically been here pretty much for 48 hours, prepping the whole show. So Trent in particular put together so many of the things, which took an enormous amount of work. And that's why anyone who is still watching, can I say, if you are able to support the Patreon account as well, this is, we've been making free shows for the whole of lockdown. We make free shows at any time, but we've been making even more. And we really now need to get to the point of starting to fund them. And so that will be absolutely fantastic, because until we're able to properly go back to doing live gigs, it's really important. So please, if you can, go to cosmicshambles.com and slash Patreon. It might be patreon.com/cosmicshambles. One way or the other, you'll find it. Anyway, let's find out if we have our, ladies and gentlemen, our final unannounced guest, who is now going to be announced. Please welcome to whatever screen you are looking at, Mr. Harry Hill.
Who is it?
Hi, Harry. It's just the 24-hour socially distanced show.
Hi. Hi, Robin.
This is what I like. Do you know what? We have had some amazing technology throughout the show, but finally you have been there's been much talk of the Large Hadron Collider, but no one has created something that has fitted a face that well.
Well, this is the ultimate privacy, because it's so difficult to maintain your privacy with Skype. If someone calls, it's just the old-fashioned knock on the door. Who is it? if you recognise the name. And I just about recognise your name, Robin. And the great... Remind me how I know you again. And the
1991, the Comedy Pit. Compere was Robin Banks, Streatham.
Yeah, fantastic. Those are the days. We had the best of it, didn't we, Robin? Listen, this the other great thing about this is that you don't have to dress up. But I have. That's the big reveal.
This is, it's lovely, because there was a lovely moment where, I don't know if you remember, the last time... Oh, there we go, a little bit of feedback there.
Should I turn it down?
Yeah, if possible. If you can see the...
Should I be wearing headphones?
If you can. I immediately now expect, this is the point, if they're normal headphones, I'll have that tremendous sense of disappointment going, of course, Harry's got the most enormous proper headphones, the most ridiculous headphones with rabbits on either side.
I have got some headphones. Hang on, should I get them?
Oh, don't worry. Let's just, we're right at the end. We've been on stage now for 24 hours and 10 minutes. Let's not worry about things like that. Now I know that you were, the last time I saw you was at the Slapstick Festival back in January.
Oh yeah, with the goodies.
Yeah, and that was obviously there's a mix. One of the things that we were all down in a restaurant, and Harry was there, and Barry Cryer was there, and Tim Vine was there, and but it was me that got recognised.
As I
left
in that restaurant,
Yeah, it was. As I left the restaurant, a waiter came up to me and went, I'm so sorry. Is it all right to have a picture taken with you? I'm an enormous fan. And I was like, I'm very niche, so it's a bit of a surprise. But every now and again, someone's really into people who make occasional jokes about theoretical physics. And I said, yeah, that's absolutely fine. And as he was taking the photo, he went, I was just such an enormous fan of Kevin and Perry. So he thought I was Harry Enfield. And Then I was in that situation of going, now, in one way, I should just say, I'm awfully sorry, I'm not Harry Enfield. But that actually I felt was more problematic than just remaining being Harry Enfield, at least till I got, across the cobbles into Bristol Old Vic.
Yeah, that happened to me once. I went to see, I don't know how long we've got, but I went to see Danny LaRue. Danny LaRue did a season at the Pleasance in North London. And I went on just out of curiosity. I went along out of curiosity. And obviously it was very few people in the audience. And it was all a little bit tragic, if I'm honest. And someone obviously told him that I was in, but he thought I was Harry Enfield, right? So he says, someone asks him, it was like a Q&A thing at the end. And someone asks him his favourite comedian. He says, I love the young comedians. He goes, Harry Enfield, I understand Harry's in. Where are you, Harry? Okay, so I was really put on the spot because I didn't want to embarrass him. So I said, I'm here, Danny, right? And then I basically got in so deep I couldn't get out. He's going, I love that film you made in Spain. What was it called? And I'm going, yeah, Kevin and Perry, Your wonderful and inventive sketches and voices, all those voices and characters you do, I love them. Okay? So this subsides. The show ends. It went on and on and on. And I said to the friends I was with, I said, look, let's just get out of here as quickly as we can, right? We sort of charged up the steps, and there's a guy stands there with his hand across the door. Danny would like to say hello. So then I had to maintain the whole charade in the dressing room, where I'm sure he was looking at me thinking, that's not Harry Enfield.
Oh, it's wonderful. So do you wear a piece then? Oh, yes, I wear a piece when I do all the with the Kevin and Perry's and stuff like that.
Yeah. It's it was. God bless him.
I love that they go, what's that film called? Harry Enfield's Fruit Fancies. Yes, it's this is. And then some people might be in the audience going, have you heard about Harry Hill? It's pathetic. He's pretending to be Harry Enfield to try and get more work.
Well, that was it, because everyone else in the audience was looking at me thinking that's not Harry Enfield. And thinking, why is he doing this? It was awkward, yeah.
Well, I suppose through the size of those lashes, though, as well, that a big lash will create all manner of illusion. Yeah.
It was a very, very hard night.
Now, I know that because we always like to end with a song. We've had quite a few songs throughout the night, and
what have you had?
We had Sophie Ellis-Bextor. She did some Sound of Music.
Julie Andrews, yeah.
She did Favourite Things. Nitin Sawhney played us a couple of songs. We had Robert Smith did 3 songs. He did recorded 3 different versions from his album 17 Seconds, The Cure's 17 Seconds. We had Robin Hitchcock sang us a song about trilobites. So we've had quite a range, but I know that with luck we're going to at least try and enter the avant-garde, which Steve Pretty's been doing with some of his jazz renditions.
Well, look, it is the end of as I understand it, the end of the smorgasbord of fun, and most shows end with someone singing "My Way." Now, it seems to me that "My Way," a song that celebrates individuality, by everyone singing it exactly the same way, it completely negates the whole point of the song, My Way. And so what I'd like to do for you now is sing My Way, My Way. Thank you. Let me know if you can hear this music. Can you hear this music? Is that loud?
Yeah, can hear it.
Is that loud? Okay, start again. Here we go. Now and near isn't the face ISO and curtain final there. Friends, my clear it's a isle. Case my state isle. Certain I'm with you. I've got ahead. Start again. It's backwards. Now and here we go. Start again. Here we go. I'll get it. I will get it. It'll be. Now and near isn't the face I sew and curtain final the friends my clear it's a aisle case my state aisle certain I'm which of lived I full that's life a each traveled I by way every end or end this and more much it did I weigh my regrets few a had I again them but mention to few too did I do to had I what through its sore and exemption without planned I cause chartered each step careful each by way along the more and this and more much it did I weigh my man aim is what for God has what things to see Lord has he then things to set to feel truly words be not earned feels to one on shows record the blows the took I it did I weigh thank you very much.
That was wonderful.
We'll be back entertaining you, but until then, from Harry Hill in Tier 2.
That was wonderful. There we are. That was. It was like Harry looked like he'd been made by Aardman Productions. It was fantastic. What a beautiful thing. Thank you very much for everyone who's come down here. Thank you very. I won't do all the rest of the thank yous because Trent has said them already. I hope you remember how much Trent, the amount of work he's put into this. Thank you very much, everyone who's been watching. Thank you very much, everyone who's been, as Trent said, all the people who've been communicating together, and I hope also some of you made friends with each other as well, and all of that kind of stuff. That's great. Hopefully next year we will be back with a kind of normal show, well, more normal show, and we are definitely not going to do. There was a point where I really thought that I was going to be a ghost by the end of this. And so thank you very much to everyone to play us out.
Oh, really?
With his, with his avant-garde jazz, ladies and gentlemen, with a 24-hour reworking of a rare Ornette Coleman album, it is Steve Pretty. Brilliant. Thanks very much, everyone. Thank you, everyone.
Well, well, that was it. That's how we ended the show. And thank you very much, everyone who watched on the actual night. We had over 30,000 people watching the show. And thanks to, just such an incredible, rare performance. I don't know if you've watched any of the other clips, but out there on YouTube, you will find clips of we had the All Soul Christmas Carol with Guy Pearce and Mark Gatiss and Joe Brand and Eddie Izzard and many others. 4 astronauts, Rusty Schweikart, Helen Sharman, Samantha Cristoforetti and Chris Hadfield. We had Nitin Sawney, Robin Hitchcock. We had Robert Smith. We had Jocelyn Bell Burnell. We had Alice Roberts. As I said, we had people from 7 continents. I hope you enjoyed that. I hope next year we'll be back in the theatre doing this with the audience in front of us, not dotted around the world. And thank you in particular to all of those who support us via Patreon. That is the way that we're able to keep going. Unfortunately, due to lockdown, it's been quite a difficult year to keep creating these things, and we really do need to get more Patreon support. So if you are able to support us via Patreon, then please do go to patreon.com. We are the Cosmic Shambles Network, and we'll probably see tomorrow, because there's probably something else we're going to make then, but it won't be a 25-hour show. It might just be a little 12-hour show or something. I don't know.